Hey folks, welcome to this look at Worldographer and one of the new features in Worldographer 2025. We're crowdfunding right now, supporting the next version, this 2025 version, which will come out later in 2024. In fact, the crowdfunding runs until I think October 9th or thereabouts, and then a couple weeks after that, we expect to have um, a big update. We'll probably be updating the demo version a couple of times throughout the crowdfunding as well, and then we'll have a big update soon after. Like I said, a couple weeks after the crowdfunding ends, and we'll also likely, still be working on some additional features. People that have been uh, using Worldographer for a while probably know that every month or two we're putting out new updates and new features, and sometimes even more often than that. So that's the plan that we've got right now, and there's certainly some big new features which we've shown quite a few of those in recent videos, and we'll link to that as well as linking to the crowdfunding. And the crowdfunding page does have a link to the demo version. But now I'm going to show you one of the smaller features that's just something that again, it's a small thing, but it can make your maps look a lot better, and it just kind of shows you there's a bunch of these small features and small improvements that really help to make it easier to use, as well as getting better resulting maps. And that is elevation lines, and giving you more control over elevation lines more specifically, because elevation lines have been in the tool for a while, but you couldn't control. So for example, let's create a line. We're just going to do a simple line here instead of a curved line. We're going to, for the stroke type, instead of that being simple, we're going to pick elevation. And what this does is it's going to create, once I start clicking on the map, it's going to create these elevation lines. And there you have it. And so in the tool previously, you'd probably get something a little bit more like that, probably by default. But now what we're giving you is control independently of the main line, as well as these little tick marks or hash lines, or whatever you want to call them. And that's being done on the shapes drawer in this line options section. Let me slide this over a little bit just so you can see. So there's also a shadows area here. These are two different tabs in this area. These controls aren't used as often. You're only going to be putting these elevation lines on a typical world or region map. You probably might have 1, 2, 3 of them. You're not going to have a ton of them. Likewise, we're going to get to railroad lines in a moment, and of course, unless your map is of the right period, you're not going to have them perhaps at all, or on a map. Otherwise, you might have them, in the right period. You might have quite a few railroad lines. So that they're all right here, though. This stuff is right here. So we're going to go over this. These are all, I should point out, percentages of your hex width. So this width is 11%, of a hex is what or a tile, in case if you're using our square based map as well. And then this width here is going to control the width of those little hash marks. So if we want to make them thicker for some reason, we can do that. If we want to make them extra thin, we can do that. I think you're still going to want to keep them roughly equal to the line. I'm just going to round that off and make it a 10, and make this 10 as well. So I think you're roughly going to want to keep it. You're going to keep it roughly equal to the width. But then distance. Distance is how far apart these lines are. And so 30% of a hex is probably a good default. But there might be cases where you wanted to have them narrow together or further apart, depending on what kind of look you want to get for your map. So that's kind of cool. And then length is how far apart, how far they stick out, I should say. So if we wanted to stick them out further and make an eyelash almost, we can do that. If for some reason we want them real tight, if we would like that look or something, you can do that as well. So you have all this control over these lines. And then the final thing is separation. This is how far apart two railroad lines will be. So we need a railroad line. And if we want to do a railroad, we probably should have a couple of cities to connect. So we can come here to the features drawer and we can search for our city icons, and we can pick these two here, 1 and 2, and then we can go back to our shapes drawer, set up a line, and this time we're going to pick railroad here, and we can do just straight lines across, but if we want to avoid that desert there, for example, we can just do several points, and I want to do this in black, so I'm going to change the color of this line to black. But yeah, so we can just, have a little bit of a curve to things. It's not a true curve. If we wanted to, we could do this as a curve, but then we're going to run into, a lot of performance overhead can happen with, if you have a map with a ton of curves. If you're just going to have a map that's got, 10, 20, 30 curves on it, no problem. But if you're going to have, a couple thousand lines that are all curves, it might run into some performance issues. So there's our railroad line by default. Actually black, because these symbols are in black, black isn't really the best choice after all. So let's do like a fairly dark gray. Let's see how that looks after we tweak the line, because I don't like that, but I think it's because of the separation actually, which is the one thing we didn't show in the other type of line because it doesn't apply. So I can narrow this down, and that does start to look better. I want to see what it looks like if it's white, and then what if this is thinner, 7 or 8, do this as 7 or 8, yeah. So you can play with it for your particular aesthetic. I like that. Didn't want to do that. I mean, I might play with the color a little bit more and see what does a light gray do for me. What does, a tan do for me? But I think dark gray. Yeah, maybe the dark gray might look best. It does offset a little bit. We can go down a little bit. Anyway, so sometimes when you're working with a mapping software, you feel like you're an interior decorator, especially for a battle mat, and this is the world map equivalent of it. So let me cut myself off there, but you get the idea. You can change the color to whatever you want the color to be. You can change, again, the width of the line, the width of the hash marks, the distance apart, the length, and then the separation for a railroad line. So that's just one of the changes in Worldographer 2025. Again, it's a small thing, but these things add up. Another small example of a small thing that we saw, we have it to a degree here, where we got this scroll bar here, lets you scroll between and pick these things while still keeping all these other controls fresh, as opposed to in Worldographer, once you start scrolling around, particularly like with the features drawer and the terrain drawer. Like if we turn this off, if we are looking through and you're trying to find a particular icon here, if in Worldographer you will see that the other controls kind of slide off of the drawer, and you have to scroll back once you find your icon and so forth. So these changes, really do help the usability and really do help the final look of your maps. I'm going to turn off the that and give you a better result, and better working environment for it. So again, Worldographer 2025 is crowdfunding now, wrapping up around the 8th or 9th of October, and we'll have it released just like car models. It comes out later in the prior year, prior to the model year. So we'll be having that out, later in October or early November. So, something like that. We'll have have an update out there with all the main functionality. There might be a few things that we're still working on, which we'll just put out another update a couple weeks or a month later as we finish other things. We're getting a lot of great suggestions, a lot of additional things we want to throw in there. So I appreciate it, and hope we'll have your support. And I hope that you try the demo. Hope that you're able to make some great maps with the tools. Thanks so much.